I think many people in the autistic community struggle to know whether they are doing the right thing. And what I see is it's almost like two polar opposites are fighting for, again, the same thing. They want the best outcome for their kids, but they're never too sure. And there was a post that I came across on the adult autism community group, which I will input a picture of it here, where a woman was basically talking about her experiences and how she's tried to do the best thing that she could do for her children by home educating them, but she constantly is feeling like she is failing as a mother. And I'm going to basically read the post to you, and then I'm going to also read my response to you. But I also kind of wanted to explain why I wrote the post that I wrote as a therapist, as an autistic person, and also as a parent of somebody with autism. I feel like the responses that she got was people basically saying, you did the opposite of what like my parents did, and I had to be in a school system that was ultimately traumatizing, so you must be doing a great job. And I'm not disputing for a second that this mother is doing a fantastic job and she is trying her best, but I think that she needed a more well-rounded and more well-considered answer than that. So that is what I give her. And I thought she can't be the only person that might need to hear this, so maybe I make a post on it. She wrote, help me accept my children for how they are and to stop feeling like I'm utterly failing as a mother. My daughters are 10 and 15 and both are autistic. The 10-year-old has a PDA profile, and I'm fairly sure at this point that I am also autistic and or have ADHD, but I don't have a formal diagnosis and I don't see the utility in getting one. Throughout their lives, I have strived to be the best mother that I can be and to accommodate their needs as much as I can, whilst at the time feeling as though I'm failing them because they continue to be autistic, no matter what I do. Yes, I know that sounds stupid. I've read dozens of books on autism, PDA, parenting, I listen to podcasts and I join Facebook groups, and yet I still feel like I'm a terrible mother. For example, I have always home educated them. It was clear from the beginning that the eldest wouldn't cope in school. She couldn't deal with other children and had no interest in playing with them. She had severe separation anxiety and only really felt safe when she was with me, and had so many additional needs around toileting, fine motor skills, sensory issues, etc. So I kept her at home and tried to give her the best education and life that I could, but I never stopped feeling like it was somehow my fault that she wasn't like the other kids. I would watch other children playing together at school or going around museums giggling together and I would feel so sad that my daughter would never experience that. I always felt like if I could just do the right thing, somehow she would change and be like the other children. But she was quite happy, rarely leaving the house, only meeting other kids that she knew well one-to-one. Occasionally I could convince her to go out and we would have holidays and trips out, but it was always like I was forcing her and she would have preferred being at home on her computer. I thought I was doing the right thing by forcing her. She's an agreeable child who will do anything that will make me happy, so she went along with whatever I said most of the time without much complaint, whilst clearly struggling to cope away from home. When her sister came along, she was initially very sociable, though she struggled intensely with other people. She wanted to be around them, but she didn't seem to be able to cope with it. She was often aggressive and violent towards me. Couldn't be touched or approached if she was having a meltdown, and seemed to have an intense need for control over everything and everybody around her. I home educated her too, as again, she would not have coped in school. As she got older, it was like she was starting to shy away from the world and everybody in it. Now she rarely wants to leave the house, or even her bedroom, and cannot even be spoken to most days without it causing her to become very angry. She barricades herself in a room, and I have to communicate with her via a text message. I bring her meals to her bedroom most days, and she cannot cope with other people at all, not even me. The only person that she likes to spend time with is her sister, who has limited tolerance because of her own sensory issues. She would happily spend her entire life in her room watching YouTube, and trying to get her to do anything is a battle. And unlike her sister, if she does not want to do something, she absolutely will not do it. She isn't like this every day, but maybe 60% of the time. On days where she's feeling a bit more able to cope, she can be funny, engaging, and very lovely. She sometimes sees her friends or comes out to places with us, but there is always a fallout when she's had to make a big effort. I feel torn between two sides. The two sides that she talks about are two sorts of ethoses, I guess. On the one hand, convinced that this is all my doing and that I have been too soft, I am a bad mother and I should have laid down the law and I should be making them get up and go to school and socialise them and then they would be normal. She puts that in quotations. On the other hand, I recognise that they are autistic and tried my best to help them navigate the world in a way that makes sense for them. And on the occasions that I have forced things, it's been for my benefit and to make myself feel better rather than it being what they actually want or need. Why is this so hard? I find parenting so stressful and confusing. I guess I would like to just find it helpful to hear from autistic adults who go through normal childhood and found it damaging because they weren't accommodated or understood. So this lady is obviously crying out for the specific answer that she did end up getting from the community, which is children who was educated in a school system and as a byproduct end up traumatized from it. But I felt like, although that might have been really reassuring to hear and beneficial to hear to a degree because she's constantly questioning herself, and I feel really sorry for her because I know that she's not alone in that, I felt like she needed a more balanced answer. So this was my response. I want to speak to you as somebody who understands both sides of this because I am autistic myself and I work with autistic clients, and I've walked the tightrope of wanting to do the right thing by autistic children whilst battling the guilt of not knowing if I was doing enough or the right thing. The first thing that I need to say is this: your children are not broken and you are not failing because they remain autistic. Autism is a neurotype. It's not a condition to be fixed, and the aim of parenting autistic children is not to make them indistinguishable from their peers. The aim is to help them build a life that works with their nervous system, whilst preserving your relationship with them, and this is the foundation. Now let's be honest about the two extremes that you are being pulled in. On one hand, there is this voice that is saying, if I'd been tougher, stricter, made them go to school, made them socialise, they would be normal. That voice is common, but it is not supported by evidence. Research shows that autistic children forced into environments beyond their tolerance without accommodations experience higher rates of trauma, PTSD, anxiety, and self-harm later in life. Many autistic adults say that school without support was not a rite of passage, it was traumatizing. On the other hand, there is also this trap in believing that love means removing all challenges, allowing avoidance of every difficult situation, and giving in to every moment of resistance. That too has consequences. Evidence from developmental psychology shows that children who were never given safe, supported exposure to manageable difficulties can develop rigidity, anxiety around novelty, and in some instances, entitlement. Autistic or not, children still need boundaries and gradual opportunities to stretch themselves. Total accommodation with no boundaries risks creating a world that is so narrow that they cannot function outside the home, and that is not beneficial for them either. And it can also accidentally teach them that others exist only to accommodate them, which also doesn't build resilience or empathy. The truth is both extremes fail our children. What they need is radical acceptance for who they are, combined with safe, structured opportunities to slowly build capacity. Acceptance does not mean giving up. Challenge does not mean forcing, and it means designing challenges with them in mind, not other children in mind. Let me make it practical. A child with severe separation anxiety does not need to be thrown into a full-time education of a school. They may benefit from gradual, careful exposure with her personal profile in mind. That could be one step outside the house, a short trip, perhaps a one-to-one activity with somebody safe. Every step held with compassion, recovery, and time planned in afterwards, and full permission to retreat if overwhelmed. That is not giving up. That is scaffolding for her future. For the agreeable child who has spent her life fawning and doing what you wanted, the danger is resentment later in life. Research on masking shows that it is strongly linked to burnout, breakdowns in adulthood, and a loss of identity. For her, the work is not compliance, but autonomy. She needs help learning to say no safely and to trust that she will still be loved when she does. For the child with a PDA profile who barricades herself away, she does not need more demands. Demands, even gentle one, might trigger her nervous system into fight or flight, but that does not mean that you give up on all expectations of her. It means that you approach it indirectly. You offer choice, you invite instead of instruct, and you turn must-dos into collaboration missions with her leading. And you hold non-negotiables around safety and around respect. That way she learns that her autonomy matters, but so does boundaries and so does everybody else. And for you, the parent, if you do feel like you are autistic or ADHD, and the patterns you describe suggest that you might be, then getting clarity, whether formally or through self-understanding, could be a lifeline, because you cannot give what you do not have. If you don't accept your own neurodivergence, if that is true, you will always half believe in the acceptance of your children as they are. You may spend a lifetime fighting yourself on it. So let me hold up a mirror. Forcing your children to do things just because it makes you feel like you're doing the right thing is not for them. It is for you. On the other side, allowing them to withdraw from all life to keep the peace is also not for them. That too is for you. The work is not swinging between guilt and permissiveness. The work is in building a steady path between. It is hard, it is messy, but the research is clear. Autistic children do best when their needs are respected, their differences understood, their energy protected, and their opportunities scaffolded. They also do best when their parents set clear, consistent boundaries around safety and around respect and mutual empathy and compassion. And when parents model emotional regulation by owning their own mistakes and repairing ruptures, they can also learn emotional regulation. This is not about perfection, it is about repair. It's about saying sorry if I push you too far today. Next time I'll listen sooner. I've learned. What would help you recover right now? Repair teaches that relationships can survive mistakes and that it is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your children. So the answer is not tough love. And it is not total accommodation. The answer is radical acceptance with compassionate scaffolding, boundaries with empathy, autonomy with accountability. That is what prevents both trauma and narcissism. That is what builds resilience, and it is what keeps your bond alive into their adulthood. Because the truth is, your daughters will not remember whether you made them look normal, but they will remember whether you made them feel safe, whether they felt understood, and whether they felt respected. And that, more than anything, is what breaks the cycle. And they will also benefit from you mirroring that for other people too, including yourself. And that is what breaks the cycle.